Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. We want to put the spotlight on brain aneurysms today because we hear a lot of people talk about knowing someone who died from one, but rarely do we get to hear from people who actually lived through one. One study shows more than 6 million Americans have an aneurysm that hasn't ruptured. According to the Brain Aneurysm Foundation, more than half are fatal when they do rupture, but the women you're going to meet today, they beat the odds and have some really incredible stories to share, including Jasmine Bunch, who had an aneurysm when she was only 23 years old. Also joining the conversation today is Dr. Daniel Barrow. He is the chairman of the Department of Neurosurgery at Emory University School of Medicine here in Atlanta. Jasmine and Dr. Barrow, welcome to the show.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, indeed. Jasmine, tell me, 23 years old, you having what is something you've never experienced before. Take us through what happened.
Yeah, so fresh to Atlanta, had just moved here after undergrad, had a new job, a new apartment, all new things. And so this was another new to add into the equation.
Yeah.
Literally one Sunday morning, regular Sunday morning, I'm cleaning my bathtub. I've got the Sunday service playing virtually because COVID was still having the churches shut down. And I've got all the chemicals mixing in the tub, and all of a sudden there's just this onset of a feeling I've never experienced. And so originally I was thinking, oh, this is a dizzy spell, the chemicals got me. But then as it just continued to intensify in a matter of seconds, I was like, oh my goodness, this is no ordinary headache. And the only way I could describe it was literally, I think I cried out, oh my God, what is happening to me? It feels like my brain is on fire. And so literally in just a matter of minutes, it began to intensify. The headache got worse. I started to kind of lose feeling in my fingers. My spine was kind of stiffening and seizing up. Light was blinding. My ears were ringing. I was getting pretty hot. I was sweating. And I started to realize I probably should go to my roommate, who thankfully was home, to get some help.
What's going through, I mean, are you even thinking, is this a stroke? Is this a heart attack? Like, what are you processing at this point? Or can you process it? Because it's an onset of all these symptoms never before experienced.
Yeah, so I know initially, I think off rip, I knew this was no ordinary headache, and I think because of the type of pain I was feeling, it felt like a burning sensation inside of my head. I knew that it had to be something related to my brain, but I'm thinking, okay, maybe I fell like a while ago and this is like a concussion or something. I've never had a concussion, but it's the only thing that made sense with kind of the other symptoms kind of meshing in.
So did your roommate call for an ambulance or just take you straight to the hospital?
Funny enough, she was like, do you need me to call you an ambulance? And I was like, girl, I don't know how much that costs. And I tried to walk it off. I tried to walk off a brain bleed. And so I walked to the couch, and I think my body seized up in a way that was like,
it was clear that you're not going to walk this off.
Literally, I was like, I've got to get up out this house. I've got to get off this couch, and I've got to get to a hospital.
So when you get to the ER, they run tests, and eventually they tell you this is a ruptured aneurysm. Had you even heard of that? Did you know what that even meant?
No. So at the point that I reached the hospital, I was in so much pain that I couldn't walk, so they wheeled me in. I felt every bump and gravel in the road as they were rolling me in. And at this point, nausea was beginning to set in, and I think that was the final like mystery clue that whatever was happening was absolutely neurological. So they got me a room, got me back. I could barely stay still for an MRI because I was in so much pain. They got a picture and was like, Ms. Bunch, the neuro team is on the way. And I know for me, like obviously I was thinking it, but I was like, my God, this is scary.
Yeah. So you end up in surgery. You end up in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Yes. So I was rushed into emergency, actually endovascular coiling. So thankfully I didn't have to go through the surgery, but that's essentially when they kind of go in through your groin or your wrist. They coil off the aneurysm. As you can see in the pictures, they put a tube in my head to kind of drain the excess fluid. And so I literally woke up, I think by the grace of God, I woke up that night and I was paying rent and making silly faces at the camera with my roommate who stayed with me. So
that is amazing. Dr. Barrow, I saw you nodding your head. It sounds like every symptom that one can have, she was having them one after another.
I've seen this movie before. It's people that have an aneurysm rupture and bleed. It's almost as though they're reading out of the same book. They basically will tell you, I had the sudden onset of the worst headache in my life. And I think it's important to understand that aneurysms are not rare. Probably 1 in 50 people have a brain aneurysm. And fortunately, the majority of them don't ever cause any trouble. But when they do, Jasmine is one of the very, very fortunate people. When an aneurysm ruptures and bleeds, a significant percentage of people die before they ever get to the doctor.
Right.
And those that make it to a hospital often die or are left disabled as a consequence of the hemorrhage.
Explain what exactly is an aneurysm in simple terms. What's happening?
Sure. An aneurysm is merely a weak spot on the wall of an artery. They can occur anywhere in the body.
You brought it up.
I do, yeah.
I mean, just to sort of help us kind of see and understand.
This is a model of the human brain, and you see these red structures are arteries that supply blood to the brain at the base of the skull. They create kind of a little circle called the circle of Willis. And it's around this area where the overwhelming majority of aneurysms occur. There are other locations in the brain where they occur, but most commonly at the base of the brain. And this is just, again, just a model, if you will, of if this is an artery that's branching, this bubble would be an aneurysm.
So it literally is sort of like an inflated pocket of, is that right? Is it a pocket?
Yeah, it's a weak spot. A weak spot through which blood swirls with each heartbeat. And as I said, many aneurysms remain silent throughout one's life, but a percentage of them are destined to someday in the future rupture and bleed. And when they bleed, they cause the havoc that Jasmine has described, and oftentimes associated with significant risk of death or disability. So she's very fortunate to be with us.
Yeah,
a walking miracle, as the doctors termed
That's what
it.
the doctors called you, a walking miracle, and it is a pleasure to have a walking miracle here to share this story. We're going to continue this conversation. We're going to meet another woman who knows this experience very well. You're going to meet a woman named Denisha. She knows what this experience was like. A little bit of a different story and a different outcome, but really interesting information when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I really want to thank you for season 3 of Portia. It's because of loyal viewers like you that we keep getting to share this daily dose of positivity all across the country. So just a reminder, I still need you to like, comment, and subscribe, and go ahead and tell your friends. You can catch us now in Orlando, in San Francisco, in Atlanta, and all across the country on Fox Soul. Tell your friends. We'll see you soon on Portia.